Hello everybody in the chess world, and yeah, wanna see my quickest defeat, my most shameful and quickest? You know what? I always leave markers. You can go straight there and just see, yeah, my humiliation. But the other subjects in this video are going to be miniatures, like the classical, and some common mistakes that my opponents made as well, because yeah, that happens in my favor as well. So okay, let us go first to really quick. I'll give you a general idea of what miniatures are, and first the most basic examples, and then a little bit more complex. So a super basic example of why a miniature might occur has to do sometimes with a bishop hanging, let us say, hanging bishop on g5. This is a classical example by white. So yeah, this will be like the most basic blunder in three moves. White already loses the bishop because yeah, he cannot even answer the check with bishop d2 because e3 has just blocked that path. So yeah, we're lost in three moves. We might resign here. This will be a miniature. Or let us put slightly more complex version of that might come from a Nimzo. I mean, this super short game that I'll show you has actually happened. But again, it's a classical mistake. In here, bishop g5. Again, double question mark because the bishop is not protected. So here bishop takes f2. Yeah, it's the obvious winning move as after king takes, knight checks, and yeah, black is going to recover the piece on g5 later on, and well, there'll be a pawn up. We cannot castle anymore. This is like a disaster. So again, going quite quickly to this, elemental miniatures. There is one opening. We'll see it with I'll flip the board. So an opening that is like a let us say a miniature maker will be the Budapest Gambit because it's really aggressive in black. He is known to have a lot of opening tricks. So let us say, for example, in this, the main line, this knight g4, there is this super known little trick in this line. And here, yeah, black can afford to take on e5 without doing anything particularly against the attack on this bishop. Initially we might think we have to take it, or either that or go away. But in here, and some asleep player with white pieces decides, yeah, I'll take the bishop. There is this known checkmate in one, this mating figure with the queen on e7 and knight on d3. So yeah, that happens. And even in the other variation of the Budapest Gambit, which will be to play here knight e4, this is the Faharovich variation, there is also known trick, like knight f3, most logical move, d6, takes, bishop takes, and here there is already like a threat for black. And then let us say, yeah, white might think, okay, this knight is kind of looking here, this bishop as well, the queen as well is looking at the dark squares, maybe g3, just to already put like a brick wall against that. But yeah, that falls into knight takes f2, which not only wins a pawn, well, it wins at least, I guess, we're hitting rook and queen, and obviously, well, the point is after king takes f2, we have this check, followed by, well, simply taking the queen, right? That is a problem. Okay, this will be like the super basic example of miniatures. I'll give you two more, which are two of my favorites. They both have to do with promoting a pawn. So I'm already giving you a clue, but yeah, these are not exercises. This is just I want to show you. So the first will be the let us again flip the board and see this slab variation from white's point of view. Queen b3, and queen b6 is a normal response because we're hitting the b7 pawn. When white takes on d5, it's logical that, well, black captures before on b3 because, yeah, they don't want to lose anything here on d5. So, yeah, queen takes b3 first, a takes. And now, instead of c takes d5 in one game, black played bishop takes b1, which is a mistake because That move receives this intermediate d takes c6 move. And yeah, okay, the idea is black here probably had nothing better to do than to take their rook takes b1 and admit that they are a pawn down for almost nothing. But yeah, black was greedy and they thought, okay, bishop e4 saves my extra piece and controls the pawn, so I should be winning. And well, yeah, it's true. If we play c7, there is just knight c6. The rook controls the queen square. Everything's fine. But yeah, I mean here, boom, rook takes a7, won the game immediately. This rook takes a7. c7 is the winning answer, and this is a key thing. Well, we'll see it on other examples as well, but this pawn has two queening squares. That's the problem. So nothing can prevent the promotion. Like otherwise, black will have. Let us, think about it like this. If this knight were protected, then king d7 would at least not lose the game, or that's the thing. Or if c8 was protected, well, then we could just develop the knight and win. But yeah, this is immediately winning. I'll show you one more example of the miniatures and then we'll go to the fun part. But this last one, which let us switch to e4, this is a caro-kann, and we'll have the black side. This is quite pretty, and again, I'm pretty sure this happened. This is an old game. So normal caro-kann. Okay, here already we see some pretty weak moves by white, but okay. Knight g3 already looks suspicious, right? And after h5, I think bishop g5 is also at least suspicious because h4, white hasn't stopped h4. Well, here, again, knight 3 to e2 was the only move. Bishop takes f6 is a blunder. But, okay, here we would all take on g3, and that is what black plays. It's pretty obvious. Why will we recapture this bishop on f6 when we can just do this? Which, we hit both of these pawns, we hit the bishop, and everything's fine. So, bishop e5 this is similar to the example we just saw, The one side thinks that, well, they can save the piece and at the same time stop the promotion. And yeah, g takes f2 check is already probably a small advantage for black, but black is totally winning here. So, well, why not? I think this is a good moment to pause the video and think. Okay, so rook takes h2 is not a hard move to see, right? What might be hard to see is whether that really gets anywhere or not, because yeah, white just took it. And of course now g takes h2, bishop takes h2 will lead to a fairly balanced position, right? So again, pause the video and think. Queen a5 check, c3, and boom, removing the defender. This is what I like about this exercise, because it is a little bit going under the radar, right? Like this was, now there's a sequence of two moves that force everything. White cannot do anything. They're just hopeless, and check and check. Like you're tied up. And yeah, this is resignation, because again, against pawn takes, same situation as before. We have two queening squares for the pawn, and we just won the rook. We won a bunch of material, and we're winning. Okay, so now let us go for the fun part. First, happy moments for me. It's gonna have to be on d4. I'll show you the lines that gave me the biggest amount of quick victories. Just common mistakes that my opponent make, facing my opening. So one is the Stonewall Gambit in the Dutch position, the Dutch opening. This is the starting position of the Stonewall Gambit. So here there are tons of theory, but it's curious. A lot of times, mostly on the internet, maybe playing Blitz, Rapid, sometimes even in Rapids in clubs and stuff. I don't know. I've seen this d5 answer, which is a big mistake. I don't know, 30 times, 40 times, so often. I've even seen a I've seen the same player making this mistake twice. I mean, this is really funny because yeah, the idea is to protect the pawn, but the problem is, of course, I always play this check, forces g6, queen takes e5, and this is probably not a decisive advantage, but it's certainly a big one, right? We just took a pawn. I mean, I'm hitting this other pawn. Well, if they exchange queens, I'll recapture with the knight, and I'll be with this double check. So, you know, well, I'll play it, but I guess it'll be something like this. And now I take this pawn, and then I'll take this one. You know, it's a disaster. I mean, black doesn't have to do that, but okay. Well, oh, even, sorry. In here, well, if you play f5 now, like, okay, to protect the pawn, I have check in e5, and then I'll take the rook. I mean, this is looking so ugly. And of course, yeah, my idea basically is to take on e4 next. So, okay. But now I'm going to be honest, and I will show you this is really the biggest mistake. You know, the mistake that I've seen more often by my opponents. Again, we'll see it from the point of view of black. So I've even talked about a lot of colleagues and friends that also play the King's Indian as myself, and they told me it happens to them as well. They won, just like myself, they have won like 50, 60 games, at least games with this exact same line. It's amazing. So here the main lines are h3 and bishop e2, but some players do go bishop d3. So here with black, I pin this knight and h3, I exchange, and okay, initially here, white looks fine. They have the big center, they have the pair of bishops, they've even developed the queen, but yeah, knight of d7, this is black's idea, is to hit on over the dark squares. Bishop takes d4 is already a threat, and against, well, bishop e3, most logical move, you know, white develops and protects, but we do the same. We develop and attack again on d4, and this is the moment where the double question mark move comes so many times. I cannot tell you, because here the only move, I mean the absolute only move, is d5, and it's I could say it's a visually unpleasant move for white, because they think, well, but with this d5 I'm allowing everything. I'm allowing knight d4, the strong bishop on g7 opens up, you know, the knight from d7 could go now to e5 or c5. It looks ugly, right? And in fact, the continuation will be knight d4, hits the queen. This is nothing really bad for white, but it looks wrong. Queen d1, c5 is one of the recommended moves, and well, short castles, right? I mean, this is super playable for both sides. I will probably agree that well, black might think that this was an opening success, because yeah, we do have a super strong knight here on d4, which is protected, and it's fine. But okay, you know, white is just going to play for f4. We might play for b5 or e6. I mean, normal chess game. But yeah, so many people play here knight to e2, which again, super logical. They don't want to touch those pawns on the center. They want to keep them as they are, not to weaken the dark squares. And this will be the move that defends it. But yeah, knight g5. I mean, this is winning for black. This is amazing, because yeah, we're hitting the queen and the hanging bishop, and yeah, after pawn takes, we just replace that knight, and yeah, all the games follow up like queen g3, knight takes, king f1, knight takes b2, and yeah, we're totally winning. 2 pawns up, no castling rights for white. This is a disaster. But again, a totally understandable mistake, because in this position, yeah, really logical. White says, let us keep that pawn chain intact to keep the dark squares, you know, solid. But yeah, 92 just loses immediately. Okay, and now finally the best move for my humiliation, my quickest loss ever, which will be even with the white pieces, so it's more humiliating. But okay, since this super blunder happened not only to me, it's kind of like a known one, so it happened to a lot of players. So I'm gonna, tell it to you from the point of view of myself, but in those times, because I was, I had been playing like a year in a chess club when this big blunder happened. So yeah, I was like, well, I had when you started in a club, you started in the fourth category. So before the first year passed, I had already won the fourth category. I was on the third, so yeah, I was a total beginner, but I was a little bit confident. It's fine. So I was an E4 player in those times. I've never played E4 like now. So I had, after that fourth category tournament finish, I decided to try this bird opening. I wanted to play F4, but I wanted to play with a very specific plan in mind, which was the Stonewall Bird. Just playing knight F3, super solid, super, D4, E3, putting all my pawns on the dark squares in the center, and knight F3. Because, yeah, being an E4 player, I wanted to try some more closer position. I was like, well, I want to try this, play just different chess, try my stuff. So the only lines that I had been glancing at slightly were this classical D5, and yeah, let us say this, like, yeah, super passive, but strategical, maybe bishop D3, I like that. So with that in mind, I went to this rapid games tournament. I played F4. My opponent played E5 immediately. I was like, E5, what is this? I haven't looked at that. Well, of course, this is the From Gambit, but I didn't know it at the time. So I remember, glancing at the position, I was like, E5. So, well, I'll take it. D6. Well, now it's a little bit different, right? Like, what should I do? Because I saw, okay, now he's like definitely giving up the pawn, because if I take it now, I'll be a pawn up like forever. But he will be developing that bishop while I have no development. And I thought, well, but what's the alternative, right? Like, if I do a nothing move, he's gonna do d takes e5, and I'm just letting black be super happy. I don't want that. I'll accept the challenge, and I did. So bishop takes d6 came, and I was like, okay, or he's already threatening a bunch of stuff, right? Like queen h4 check is already winning now, because I will have to go g3, the obvious stuff. So I did go like, well, but knight f3, develop and protects. And up to here, I was like, yeah, super naive, but at the same time, not worried. But then g5 came. And here I remember thinking like, okay, that really was unexpected. I didn't see that. And through the more, he's already, he's renewing the threat on every turn, right? g4 is winning now if I don't do anything. Follow, but that same check and mate. So can I no, I cannot allow that. No, I have to avoid that. I have to prevent. Yeah, bishop g3 mate. I remember in the game I was like I think I made this little joke for my opponent, like looking at him like, well, you understand that now I'm gonna have to murder you and then like burn the score sheet, right? It was like we were laughing at, so ridiculous. But really, I did see like 14 games like exactly like this on a database, of course, all by beginners and stuff. For those interested in the opening, g3 is like the main line here to answer g4 with knight h4. And there is also some d4, which the idea is that, now we open up this diagonal for the bishop. So if g4, knight g5, although this already looked quite chaotic. So, yeah. Before, finishing the video, I want to show you a few stuff about this gambit. So, what happened the days after that, probably after crying or something like that, or hitting myself on the back with, yeah, without whipping myself or something like that. I remember first I went back and I thought about, well, I started looking at what was this From Gambit. It was like, okay, 4 e5 is a nice gambit. And the first conclusion, that I arrived to was, yeah, here. So yeah, my first thought was, well, I really like this From Gambit. So yeah, if my opponents play a 4, I would like to play it. Like, I'll take that. I would love to arrive to this position. I remember how impressed I was after this G5, so energetic. As I want to play this. But my second conclusion is I cannot play. I cannot play this From Gambit because, yeah, if in the opening, the problem is that in here after f4 I play e5. Well, my opponents might go e4, and this is a king's gambit with the black pieces, from which I had no knowledge from anyway. So I was like, okay, always remember, as I always say, be careful with transpositions. But the last thing was, okay, then going back to my initial problem, I wanted to play the Stonewall Bird, and I did not want to receive the From Gambit. So I was thinking like, well, what can I do? I really want that. I wanted to play that. Again, my intention of playing that Stonewall line was just to start playing a little bit positionally instead of my classical e4. And I came up with a quick solution really quickly, but again, I'm going to ask you to leave on the comments, to leave a commentary if you know something about it. Because, yeah, my idea was super simple. I'm going to play d4 initially, and again, let us say knight f6, but almost anything. Then I'll play f4, just followed again by knight f3, e3 on c3. I mean, to me it was so simple, so obvious. Like, if I play like this, there is no From Gambit. And yeah, the comment, well, when I said against almost anything I can do it, well, the only 2 moves that could prevent that idea that I have will be, well, e5, that's the England gambit, which is not so good, or c5, but against c5 I could just go e3, and the same idea, I'll just continue with c3, f4, and knight f3. So when I said leave a comment, if you will, it's like, I check on some databases and I seen that nobody plays this d4 followed by f4. I almost never seen that. There were like very, very, very few games with that order. So is there a problem with that order? Because I don't think so. Probably, usually what players are just not afraid of the From Gambit, but you can understand. I was a beginner. I had just suffered my biggest and quickest defeat, in that line, so I was like trying to avoid it. But really, actually, d4 followed by f4 looks like a pretty decent way to force a Stonewall Bird for white, and just plain super simple, right? So, okay, so thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time.